And here we are. There we go. Good morning. Doug, welcome back. Welcome back. The wonderful Doug Smith.
So great to be back, and I'd like to comment on your attire today. We match
Oh,
again without planning.
we
So
do. We
yes, we
do.
do. Yes. No planning. No
No
planning.
planning. That's right. That's right. So, how was your trip?
We had a wonderful trip. Grandkids, 2, 3, and 6. 2 grandkids, 2 boys. Taking them on a 7-day trip into Central America. Um, just absolutely spectacular. Everybody got home safe. Everybody got there safe. Not everybody stayed completely healthy. It's impossible to take 10 people to that area of the world without somebody having Montezuma's revenge. But we won't talk about that on this show today, okay?
Oh, that's all right. I remember my trip to Mexico. 12 of us rented a house in Acapulco, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're sitting down by the pool in our bathing suits, and the pool guy comes down with pitchers of margaritas and pina colada. I mean, 10 o'clock in the morning. And well, he'd ask us, "Do you want a margarita? Do you want a peanut?" Well, we said, "No, we'll take it all. We want all of it." So here we were, slumming it around this pool, drinking at 10 o'clock in the morning. But hey, that's what holidays are for, right?
Yeah, we're back safe, and my Spanish got a little bit better.
Oh,
But
good.
we're just pleased that the kids had a great time and everybody was safe. And Air Canada did a really, really good job with this package. So you know
Oh,
what,
good.
I got to give them, when they do a great job, I got to say, hey, Air Canada did a
Yeah,
great
there
job.
we go. Absolutely. So, why don't we? Because we may have some viewers today who are watching the show for the very first time, and they have no idea what you and I are up to. I mean, nobody knows what you and I are up to, really. So, over to you just to talk a little bit about why we want to do the press box. What are some things that we want to accomplish on the show? How about you share that this morning? Get you
Sure,
back on
man.
track.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a bird's eye view of sports, right, all across the board. I mean, we all feel like there's something. We're walking around feeling like there's something wrong with us, and that includes athletes. They go through turmoil and climb to the top and fall to the bottom, just like everybody else out there. And we want to make it an educational answer available to you, and expose what Dr. Lori Davis has been doing, to help people with their self-worth. Because that's the main thing that I believe that we're suffering from. I know I do. I lost my phone in Mexico. My mood plummeted like into the ground when I lost my phone. I get emotional even thinking about it. And that all had to do with my self-worth, my inability to handle the panic that happened inside of me and what I exposed to the rest of the world. I mean, I need to have a system to be able to manage that better. It's going to get out of control. And I think we all, feel that way deep down inside. And we want to hear from people who are watching the show. Listen, I played in the NHL and I had guys chasing me around, trying to cut my head off. That's not happening in real life. And, there's ways that you can remind yourself not to get into those situations. So that's really what we're here to talk about. Lori, does that resonate with you?
Oh, that resonates with me big time. And sometimes you brought something up for me that, when we love, and you and I've talked about this, when we love what we do, we don't even really feel like we're working. But we all need that break. And sometimes that break is more revealing to us and more educational for us than actually working on something, because it gives us time and space to reflect, or like you lost your phone, so there's a situation that you had to deal with. Those things are presented to us so we can learn from it. And a lot of my downtime, I'll sit and talk with Ron, my husband, and at least we talk 2 or 3 hours a day, because when I'm with him and we're talking, that's when I get really creative, and it's my downtime that I get a lot done, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, doesn't a deep breath make a big difference? And
Oh, yes.
that's one of the reasons I translated my books, my 2 books, into a series of meditations, just to get people to take that first breath. The meditations are 20 minutes long. There's 8 of them. But you really only need 5 minutes. You really only need a minute,
Mhm.
actually. I try to break it down to as small a component as possible, but you remind yourself in any stressful situation when you're talking down to yourself to just stop and take a breath, and everything will change for you. And it's the hardest thing to do. It
Yeah,
seems
it
like the
sure is.
easiest thing, but it's the hardest thing.
Yeah, it sure is, for sure. And that's another person that we have in our arsenal here. We have lots of really great people in our networks, and one of them is a friend of mine, Sylvia Adler, and she's actually a breath specialist.
Yes.
And she teaches breathing techniques. And since I've started using them, I'm more energetic, I sleep better. So these are all a sample of some of the things we can bring to the table to support people, especially who've been traumatized. And any kind of injury, any kind of big change in life, little change in life can be traumatic. You know, having a baby, that's a trauma. I mean, I have never had one, but I could see it being very traumatic. And so I think that we're all we've all been victims of some level of trauma, and that word to me is getting used a lot more than I really would like it to be used, because after a
Mhm.
while then we become desensitized. And oh, I've had 10 traumas, or I've had 3 traumas, or I've had, and people are going, well, what are you talking about? So and that's your area of work, Doug, and I know that you've dealt a lot in that for yourself personally and with others. But we need to recognize that we're the disability channel, we're all disabled somehow. I
Yeah.
really believe that, either
Well,
financially, emotionally, in our relationships, in our work.
well, I needed it when I was down in Mexico because there was a PGA qualifier across the street, and my good friend was caddying for one of the guys who was supposed to win the tournament. And so I had to get dressed up and go across the street and hang out at a PGA golf tournament with one of the players right next to the green and the caddy, and breathe, because I could there's no conversation. I had to be quiet the whole time. And for Doug Smith, being
That's
quiet
challenging.
being
Yeah.
quiet for an entire round of golf and not getting in between the caddy or the player, or just allowing the player to come to me and talk to me if they wanted to. Yeah, that was like an exercise class for me. People thought I was sweating because it was hot out. No, I was sweating because I was keeping everything inside, and it sort of reflected life in a way. So I try to put myself in those positions where I can practice, and I did make some mistakes,
Yeah.
and I was reminded by the pro when I made a mistake.
Cool.
He said to me, "Don't approach me. Don't ever approach me.
Yeah.
Not out here, because he can get a penalty if I approach him, because you can
Yes.
only have one caddy, you can't have two."
Right.
And so
Rules.
he told me that rule, and it changed my whole behavior out on the course. So,
Good
and
for
that's what I
you.
see you doing in the communication space, Lori. I,
What?
I see you assigning a set of rules, and I was better because I know you. I was better because I know your work when I went out on that course, and I fully intend to introduce you to that professional golfer, because he can absolutely use your work.
Right.
His
And
name's
my first show was a golf show.
There you go. So you guys are going to hit
Right.
it off. Like, I know you'll hit it off. I spent a whole round of
Listen.
golf with him. Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's win him. Let's win him the next tournament. How about that?
Yeah. Hello, for sure. Well, actually, I was on the golf show. I said, "Why do you want me on a golf show? I never even have played a game of golf." Yes, but this was years ago, Doug, 25 years ago. And they said, "Well, because you have words of encouragement and you have words of empowerment, and our golfers need that." So I did this little 3-minute gig, drove an hour to the studio, went into the studio. It was mainstream back then. 3 minutes, back in the car, back home again. I did that for 6 months, every Saturday morning for a live golf show. And that's how I got started in broadcasting. And I loved it. And anyway, it was always a joke that I was on this golf show and I never played golf. But anyway, over to you, because in about 5 minutes, we're going to bring our guest on. And I would love for you to actually do an introduction of who he is. And then we'll do a little break, and then we'll bring Stefan into the studio. So our guest today, Stefan Beardwood, Executive Director for Veterans House in Ottawa. And I understand you know him, Doug.
Yes, Stefan and I, as he says, seem to finish each other's sentences, and he'll be telling a story about the similarities of a professional hockey player, and a soldier, and the trauma that they go through and at what age they go through it. And we're both very analytical, and so we just have fun together now, helping people. It's one of the priorities, helping other people. And so Stefan and I work together, but we have fun together first, and we're helping a lot of people as a result. So I really look forward to getting updated, because things are moving so fast for us. Stefan's got his hands full right now as the executive director. So daily there's changes happening, and people aligning with us. So really looking forward to hearing what he has to say today.
Well, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I have next to me my notepad, because what I know about Veterans House, we could put in a thimble. And so I'm here to learn, and I will be taking notes when Stefan is talking as well. So I have my facts straight. By the way, too, we're also, our goal is to create rich content. And I should mention this, I know this myself, but I didn't ever broadcast this. But, our goal is to have rich content, good information, some very special guests coming on board. We've got a lineup that you're going to enjoy. And also sponsorship. So there's 3 ways that we take money. 1 is donations. 2, you could have an ad here on the show every Thursday. We take a commercial break every 15 minutes. So that may be something that you'd be interested in, or long-term sponsorship, more of our corporate sponsors, or long-term, so that you'd be a sponsor for a whole year, 6 months, whatever. So I like to mention that we're open to receiving that for our channel, the Disability Channel, Veterans House, because the Disability Channel is a nonprofit organization, and so is Veterans House. I do know that much. So, as they used to say at fundraisers, get out your checkbooks. I have no problem asking for money. So there we go. That was an obstacle. I used to have a problem with that. I wouldn't ask for my money. And now I don't do that anymore. So let's get the checkbooks out, ladies and gentlemen, because we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of people to help, and you can be part of the Disability Channel and Veterans House family.
Oh, and one more thing. If you have any guests or anybody spectacular doing spectacular things, like please reach out to us. Send us a note. Come up, just approach us, and we'll talk to you.
And we'll give you some contact info at the end of the show too, and I can run some banners. So we're going to take a little 30-second break, and we'll be right back. And we'll welcome Stefan Beardwood, to enter the stage. Welcome back, everyone, and that's where you would see your ad instead of my 30-second countdown. So welcome, Stefan, to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Great, and thank you. Doug, what would be the very first question we should ask Stefan? Let's just pretend, because I don't know anything. Pretend we don't know anything.
I never get used to hearing Stefan's story of entering the Canadian Armed Forces and wanting to be a medic and a paratrooper. Who does that? Who goes medic and paratrooper over here? Yeah, I don't know. So that story from that day to what they where it ended up is beautiful. It really is amazing.
Well,
I just want to mention before Stefan starts to speak, if you hear a bit of background noise, he has 3 construction crews at his home right now working on things. So if we hear a little banging or a little clanging, just ignore that. All right? Over to you, Stefan.
Well, my apologies for any noise that does come through. Yeah, Doug, what can I tell you? No one puts up their hand at 17 and says, "Yeah, I'm going to do all that crap," except for my cousin Walter. He's a little bit more nuts than I am. But that aside, I'm going to blame my mother. She made me do it. She said, "Hey, you know what? Your father joined the reserves when he was about your age, and he enjoyed it. And I was looking for a job, part-time, right? So I got into the military at 17, 5 days after my birthday, and very quickly started seeing things and learning things that got me excited. And one of the things that Doug and I share or talk about is the fact that when I was on the Connaught Ranges learning shooting and learning tactics and that kind of stuff, Doug was out water skiing. And right around the same spot, we circle each other for decades, never actually connecting. But that aside, I went on an exercise up in Petawawa, and that was my introduction to the airborne. And after that, it was just like, yeah, that's where I got to be. I'm heading there. And then there was just no stopping after that. And until about 2 years before my release from the military, when life sort of fell apart from multiple injuries and brain damage. So that's where it comes back into the disability and into activities.
Excellent.
So if I was to ask you, let's say we just meet and you tell me you're the executive director of Veterans House, and I would say to you, so what's Veterans House?
So Veterans House is a charity that helps others to succeed instead of ourselves. I have to make one small correction. We are not in Ottawa. There is a Veterans House in Ottawa.
Okay.
We were in a name dispute, but we won the name dispute. We are going to grant them the continued use of the name. And so there's some changes and stuff coming, but we need to keep that clarified so that the one in Ottawa is a place for veterans to get off the streets and homeless relocation and get back into society, that kind of stuff. So we operate very, very differently, where we support organizations that are doing that kind of work. So, and this is actually a really good example. We had a choice of just keeping the name because we've won the rights, right? Or we could help them to succeed and carry out their mission and get people off the streets. So when we look at our own mission statement and what we want to accomplish, it was a really good way that we could set the example, not just to them, but for ourselves and for others too. We want others to succeed in their missions. And what we do is we work on the business end. We work on helping them develop their boards. We help them to develop financial plans. We give them time with our accountant to help them set up their books. Anything we can do to make them prosper, in education, that kind of stuff. And then in addition to that, we also have begun several bursaries that we're now padding. And those bursaries will be used for different projects. For example, mefloquine, which is what damaged my brain. There's a huge multi-billion-dollar lawsuit coming down this year, probably actually within the next month or two. So there's a group that are trying to get the word out to the Canadian public that that's happening. So we're created a bursary for that. We've created a bursary for the Disability Channel, which pays for veterans to retrain into media. Veterans Affairs will pay for certain veterans, but at some point in time you stop qualifying, and we don't believe that you should be unqualified if you at some point in time were. So if you're a veteran and you need to be retrained, there is a vetting process, but we've created that bursary to help get that done. And that's to highlight not disabilities, but abilities. And that's the real key. It doesn't matter how disabled you are, it's what you do with your disability. And Doug, for example of that, he decided he'd walk again. What do you do with a disability when you're that kind of a guy?
Right? Yes, exactly. Well, that's amazing. So you're really the umbrella, is what I'm hearing. You've become the umbrella for other organizations.
Yeah, but or even a spoke, like an axle maybe, where you can connect a whole bunch of spokes in a wheel and get out there. Because Charities Division Canada did us a real solid when they gave us license. They wrote our mission statement for us, and in doing so, like there's so much we can do. All we have to do is show how it benefits the mental health of a veteran.
Oh,
And
wow.
so if I can show you that what we're doing will improve their mental health, then Charities Division allows us to do it.
Awesome. That's huge.
So
And the world needs to know about
yeah, and the smartest way to do that is to build the bursaries and to do the partnerships that get things done. So, for example, you did a pitch for donors earlier. So here's one for all of your donors or potential donors: is if you do an e-transfer to info@veteranshouse.ca, right, and make sure you include your civic address and your email address so we can send you tax receipts, but also designate it to the Laurie Davis, Doug Smith show, then that can go towards your funding as well, because you are helping veterans by getting the word out. And I know that you're going to be covering the Invictus Games. You're going to be covering the veterans participating in those. So people can donate through Veterans House as long as they follow just a couple simple rules to make sure we get all the right information.
That's great information. Great information.
Yeah. Could you share that address again? And I'll put it up on a banner for the e-transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's exactly the one that was up there, info@veteranshouse.ca.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, there you have it. So get out the checkbook. Well, the checkbooks, that's old school. So get out your phones and e-transfer. Doug, anything you want to break in and share there to give Stefan a little breather? Just your connection and something else something he said that you want to add to.
Well, Doug, why don't you talk about the not-for-profit board?
Well, and that's my role right now. I'm chairing the not-for-profit board, which is all the not-for-profits that we're creating, making sure that there's a solid ecosystem and a place where they can get educated, a resource center, right? So everybody's speaking the same business language. And Stefan is really hardcore, man. When you go see Stefan, you better have your ducks in a row. But if you don't have your ducks in a row, he'll just say, here's the order of things.
Yes.
We'll put them in this order. And,
Cool.
and so we work fabulously together, in that way. So when you come and work with us, you become part of the family, which is a beautiful thing, because everybody that we're dealing with really wants to succeed. Everybody wants to succeed, right, Stefan? Have you met anybody who doesn't?
Yes, unfortunately, I have.
Oh, okay. Well, you've gone down the road with them.
Yeah, and then some. There are some people. I think it's like anything. If you have a physical trauma, you get a bruise, you're going to recover from it in a very rapid period of time. If you have a fracture, it's going to take you a significant time longer. And then at some point in time, if it's so traumatic, they're going to amputate the limb and you're not going to be able to have it to use any longer. And I think the same thing happens in mental health. I think there are people who there's so much trauma. I can't see a way back because of the physical damages to the brain. And it, like for myself, as an example, I have what they refer to as chronic encephalopathy of the brainstem. That means my brain short circuits at any given time for any given reason, and any time there's additional stress, it's more likely to occur. Now, I've learned to microdose with psilocybin every couple of weeks, and that helps keep everything in order. I still have my episodes, but they're rare and usually controllable. But I think for some people, they just don't have access to that kind of knowledge. Most of it you have to do all the digging and the research yourself. And I think there are people who really, truly are suffering. And I wish that the medical system was better than what it is and that it worked differently, but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yes,
there's
Go ahead,
sorry, Lori.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of significant changes happening in that space, and in the resource center at Veterans House, we are going to be on the cutting edge of spatial capacity, neurotransmission, all that stuff. Stefan and I are crazy about that stuff, and we've both paved the way to the leadership in that particular space. And there's some people at the top, they're not talking yet. And what we're doing is we're instigating the conversation so that the people that aren't talking start talking. And so that's really the exercise we're performing in a nice way. Kill them with kindness, right? That's our philosophy.
Well, if you help them to succeed, then we succeed.
Right.
Because ultimately, just take a look at the example of our healthcare system. 70 years ago or more, they decided to disband or outlaw all kinds of plant-based drugs, which would be a huge benefit to society. They now know that those drugs do better jobs at treating depression, anxiety, and mental health issues than the current regime of pharmaceuticals. It's taken 70 years for them to correct that mistake. Now, what would happen if 70 years ago we existed to help them correct that mistake faster, or to help prevent them from making it in the first place? Then all of those drugs or those plant-based medications would have been available, and we'd have less side effects. More people would be healthy. It would be a part of our society where we just accept that we have to live in this healthier lifestyle. So it's not too late to change that, even though it's been 70 years in the making, right? You have to start somewhere, and now's the time to start. So we have to talk to those people who are making decisions, because they're going to make the wrong one if they don't have the information we have.
Mhm. Yes, I just had I have a similar situation last year. I always considered myself, how we have alternative medical care. Well, I know we can have alternative mental health care as well.
Yes.
So that was my quest and what my work has been for the last 30 years. But because I'm not a registered psychologist or psychiatrist, I'm uninsurable. So it was difficult for people to access my services and get them covered with their plans or, the employer or whatever. But we did have a breakthrough last year. And I have a friend whose son had a liver transplant. He was 28, very traumatic. And she knew the only way or the only place where he'd be safe for a period of time was with me. And she couldn't get it covered. They're Indigenous. And we fought for that. So now I am a registered service provider with ISC, which is Indigenous Services Canada. But I'm uninsurable under the conventional terms. So you're right, it's legislation that needs to change so that we can access other ways to support people and have it funded, because they have money to do that.
Yeah. And that is coming too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because 2 years ago, Doug and I were at the Psychedelic Conference of Canada at Queen's University, and we're probably only a couple of years away from having something like psilocybin licensed. And we already have cannabis licensed. But the difference is they're writing the rules surrounding the use of it now as a association, because they don't want to see the mess that was made when they brought in cannabis, right? And so they're going to they are writing those ground rules, and they're really simple ground rules, right? But by doing this now before it's introduced, they're going to solve a lot of problems up front. And then there's also going to be resources where physicians or practitioners can go in order to get training and get up to speed. And that's ultimately what we need right now. Is it's absent in the training of physicians and practitioners, the use of cannabis as a medicinal tool, as it is for psilocybin and many other illegal drugs currently. But the real key is, if you start training those physicians with it, then they're going to start using it because they'll see the advantage. If you go to a cannabis shop and you look at the clientele, they're my age. They're looking for something that doesn't make them high, preferably some kind of edible, and they want it for a medical problem, and they're not allowed to counsel.
Yes,
exactly. Catch-22s. So that system's going to come. It's going to change over the next few years. I'm pretty confident in that. But I also think that it will come because of pressure and conversations like these.
Right. Well, what turned this around was this particular mom who's involved at a high level in the Indigenous political community and otherwise, and said, we should have the right to send our people wherever we want for whatever serves them the best. And we should have that choice. So we're going to go for a little break, and then we'll come back, Stefan, with more conversation. This is great, guys. And Doug, I'm sure you're thinking of things that you want to share too. So when we're finished talking to Stefan, we can do that. All right, here we go. Welcome back, and just imagine your advertisement playing there. And we're going to bring in some clips of Doug on the rink, on the ice. And I've noticed in some of those clips, he doesn't always keep his stick on the ice. I'm always telling him, Doug, keep your stick on the ice, man. Keep your stick on the ice. All right. Doug, anything you would like else for Stefan to share with us? Because you know the game, I don't. And what else would you like him to speak about, or Stefan, whatever you want to speak about? Over to you, Doug.
I'm always wanting to share with people, and we're working at honing this on the specific client that Veterans House is looking for, and what does that client do? What does the perfect client do to help them fast track success? Because there's tons of people out there that want to do this.
Yeah, and it's so there's always two clients in not-for-profit charities, right? The first client is the person you're trying to help. So in that case, it's the people who want to do good for others, who want to help, specifically in our case, veterans, right? So we're looking for people who want to reach out and to make an impact with veterans, and they need help in developing the business end so that they can do that successfully. So that's one client. And the second client is the donor. And for that, you have to have a person, once again, who has in their heart, caring for veterans, or at least wanting to see them do better than what they're doing. And then if you have a particular area of interest, we would help you to find that not-for-profit or that program. So for example, if you're with the Disability Channel, if your passion is education, and then you also have a soft spot for veterans, well, here's a way you can get two for one, right? You can help retrain veterans into media programs. Likewise, if you're all about food, well, if you're all about food, wouldn't it be interesting if you had a veteran organization that was about distributing food to people who were in need of it, and we could actually help. There is a not-for-profit that we've been working with. They need boards. They need board members. They need people who know how to do things. So if you got time to volunteer and you really truly have an interest, then you can also volunteer to help develop one of these boards, right? And you can develop a program that actually feeds people. And likewise, if you're a corporate giant with the food industry, you can help fund a way to feed people.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're a big organization, there's routes to Veterans House that allow you to spend your tax credits, with Veterans House, and do it at an incredibly effective way, and even lean into the entertainment industry and the sports industry through things like the Invictus Games, which Stefan's probably going to talk about a little bit more as we move through this conversation. So there's all sorts of opportunities there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Stefan.
I'm not even sure how to add to that. It was like, that's it in a nutshell. Like,
mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is there's a lot of legs here. There's lots of legs to support what it is you're wanting to do. And it's like, yeah. So I have a personal question too. Go ahead, Doug. Did you want to say something there?
Well, yeah, we've positioned it in a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. All the facets of what we're doing now allow certain industries to intersect effectively, and that's what they're looking for. they don't all know that we exist right now, because there's been certain legal issues that we've had to handle over the last 3 years. I'm talking 3 years to make sure that this structure has the right, strength. And then we've put the leadership in place. We've designed the strategy, and now we're just entering the time that Veterans House is putting people into the system. So we know how they're going to come out the other end. They're going to come out better than they were when they went in. And that's the key, right? We're not focused on something complicated. We just want to make people better. Does that make sense, Stefan?
Yeah, within the next few months, we want to be plug and play. Right? It doesn't matter, like if you're the person looking for help or you're the person wanting to help and fund, we should be plug and play within a few months.
Cool. About 3 years ago, I interviewed the mayor of Medicine Hat, Alberta. I don't think he's the mayor any longer. He retired. But there are no homeless people on the streets in Medicine Hat, Alberta.
Amazing.
And they went from, and I, in the interview, I said, well, how did you make that happen? And he said, well, we got out of the silo thinking. So this is health, this is education, this is the justice system, this is the welfare system, all working in their own separate silos. So now if there's a homeless person on the streets in Medicine Hat, the citizens of Medicine Hat direct that person to the one door that they can go through and receive anything and everything, because those silos started working together. So it eliminated overlapping, it saved time, it saved money. I mean, how brilliant is that? Now there's a system.
Thank you, and thank you.
Why?
There's a story, very short one, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to give you a vision. One day, guy looks over a cascading waterfall and someone's getting swept down the river, reaches out, grabs a hold of them, pulls them in. Next day, the same thing happens. Day after that, another couple. And so he ends up spending almost all day, every day, trying to pull these people out of the water. And eventually he builds a bit of a break wall so he can do it more effectively and efficiently. But at no point in time did anyone bother to go up the river to find out why people were falling in the first place.
Oh my
Good
God!
one.
First time I've heard that one, man. We got to keep that one in the vault.
Good one. Good
So
one.
thank you.
And there's another one Stefan talks about. It's like the military knows exactly how to fix the water problem. Like they've got people waiting, wanting to do it, and they just don't do it.
When I was 17, I read a book on grassy narrows and how their water was, was a reserve. The water was poisoned with mercury, and they have no drinking water. They still don't have drinking water today. And I say that with a laugh, but it's hysteria, because it's almost unbelievable that it would be, for 50 years, and no drinking water. And it struck me, we went into Somalia, a desert, right? And the only source of water was a mud flow. And within 8 to 24 hours, we had set up what we call a ROPU, which is a reverse osmosis purifier. And within 24 hours, we had more water than we needed, and we were giving it to the town in addition to ourselves. So explain to me why we can't put a ROPU, which probably only cost a few grand, like maybe 10 to 100,000 or something like that. I'm not sure exactly the cost, but why can't we put that onto a reserve and give them drinking water today? There is no excuse. But I got a group of veterans that would love to be the crew to go up and teach them how to do it. All we need to do is find the person who wants to fund it, and then we can put the bursary together, put the team together.
Done.
And I would love to make a personal visit to Grassy Narrows.
Cool. Well, I mentioned earlier, I've worked on and off reservations for 25 years, north, south to Albuquerque, New Mexico, east and west. We have 69 reservations right now that can't drink their water. It's so dirty they can't even bath their babies in it. So one of my communities that I have a close connection to, and Doug, you know, Chief, you've met him. In his community, they hired a man who had been brought up in a small village in Africa, came to Canada, got his education, social worker. Anyway, they hired him to come into the reserve and be part of the staff. So the first day there, he went over to the taps to fill the kettle full of water to make coffee. Now, this is a guy that grew up in poverty in a small village in Africa. He now thinks he's living in a developed country. And everybody's going, no, Phil, you can't use that water for coffee. What? He said, I could use my water in my village for coffee. What's going on here? And so they had the very perfect person, didn't they, in there to help them, get a water treatment plant. I mean, that's how bad it is. So yes, you're right. It'll only take a little bit of time and effort, and you've got the guys, and
Yep.
there's money there to do it, and there's people who need it. There's the perfect equation.
We have a volunteer list already, like, because you have to have
Cool.
a place to put people before you're ready, right? And so
That's right.
So
Exactly.
like if you want to volunteer in any aspect of fixing the water problem in a simple way, like Veterans House will take care of that. Just make sure you send us an email and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. All right, Stefan, we've got about 5 minutes left for you today. So I could sit here and talk to you all day, just saying. So I think a trip to Ottawa is coming up in the future here, and I'm probably going to drag my friend Ramin Modiri with me and some other friends, Chief, and once we get back from California, then we'll make Ottawa sort of a destination. So get ready to host.
Now, Stefan lives in Gananoque, just about a block from the St. Lawrence River.
Nice.
And that's about an hour drive, an hour and 15-minute drive from, like, he lives just past Gananoque, right, Stefan?
No, I'm right in Gananoque. Say a block from the river. But a summer at a campsite just outside of town. There's too many tourists.
well, the thing is, when you live in Alberta, you have to drive 4 or 5 hours to get anywhere. So same with Ontario. I've driven across Canada 20 times. It takes you 3 days to get out of Ontario. Like, you're in Ontario for 3 days, and I'm going, is this for real? So that's how big it is.
It is for real. It is like 2.5 day trip across Ontario.
We're gonna do amazing things, Stefan. So we've got a few minutes. So really, I think maybe wrapping it up, if I can suggest, because you'll say it in a different way. Who do you want to be on the phone when it rings next? Like, who are you looking for? Is it a politician? If somebody's leading, tell us who you want to talk to, and we'll bring you on another time and get updated. But who is it for now? Who do you want to hear from?
That's a tough question.
Not really. I don't know that you would get them.
Well, give us a try.
Okay. There is a doctor, Segner, who was actually responsible for the methylquin safety study when that drug was destroyed. Or excuse me, when the drug was destroyed, when the drug was licensed without safety. And he ran the actual safety study. He's also the person responsible for, or he wouldn't be the person responsible, but he would know who is responsible for that drug being licensed and then being used, which created, thousands of disabled veterans in their service. And he has knowledge on the brain function and the drug. And I'm very, very curious from that perspective if he would have knowledge on helping those who are suffering to recover. Because many of those people we talked about who can't recover, that I know, stems from this drug. And the problem is I think politically he'd be afraid, but ultimately I would, pardon?
We don't know that yet.
We don't know that. But I would love to hear his input I'd like to know what he knows from the recovering, especially from the brain injury perspective. He's an infectious diseases expert. And we have tried to reach out to him in the past, but have never gotten a response.
Well, maybe we could bring him on the show.
Or another expert, or another disease expert, like Bogosh or something. Like, so there's guys doing this, there's gals doing this. So I think we can work on that, Stefan. That's a good idea.
The reason I bring this up, I got a book that's coming out in a couple months, and one of the topics is this. But the significance of this is that it's not just veterans; it's Canadians, because the drug is still licensed for use. People are still being prescribed it, and we are meeting civilians all the time who have the same problems we have, and they have, they've been diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, but it's the same brain injury. So we're constantly looking for solutions, but because medical system itself is not looking for the solutions because it's not even on their radar, right? Then I think we need to turn to these experts who, regardless of how they've been employed in the past or what they're involved with, they've got knowledge that can help us.
Tell us about your book. Tell us about your book, Stefan. That's one thing that I'd like. The name of the book. When is it coming out? That book is amazing, and I've had the pleasure of reviewing it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Go ahead, Stefan.
The book is called Instinctive Measures: The Guinea Pig Soldier and the Poison Pills. And
say that again, slower, please.
Instinctive Measures: Guinea Pig Soldiers and the Poison Pill. It's the past 30 years of what has been happening outside of media with the veterans community, Veterans Affairs, Government of Canada, Department of National Defence, trying to access programs, get proper medical diagnosis, all the obstacles and hurdles we have to go through to qualify for something that we were medically released for. It's just I don't want to use a foul language, but it's a manure show, So, and the highlighting all of that is the inaction of each of the government agencies. So every time that they see a problem, their political solution to the problem, which creates another problem, which begets another political solution, and the whole time they're asking veterans what to do, and all the veterans are saying the same thing over and over again, but what we're asking for never gets implemented.
Well, that sounds very familiar.
It is. It is.
So I have to interject now, Stefan, because our time is coming to a close, and I just want to thank you for being on the show, and we'd love to have you back, and looking forward to that book and helping you to launch that book. That would be amazing. And we have an arm that can help us with that too. We have a guru writer and author who, she's 81. She lives in Grimsby, Ontario. She's an accomplished author, and she has a publisher in her back pocket. And she presently teaches. I'm in the writers. It's called Writers Workshop. So she does workshops. I brought her out to have her experience, but she would love your book. She just released a book called Jigsaw. And life is a jigsaw puzzle. So we'll put a plug in for that too, but really excited about your book, and we can support you with that in a very large way. So thank you. Welcome back, and take care of yourself, and we'll just have you exit the stage, and we'll wrap up, Doug and I, and we'll talk soon. Okay, Stefan? And you can stay in.
Stage left.
Yeah. Okay. You can stay in and watch the rest of the show.
Talk to you later.
Yeah. Okay. So, amazing guest, Stefan Beardwood, the executive director of Veterans House, and everything that he talked about, Doug, is a separate show.
I know he's come. Stefan has just done amazing. When I first met him, there was a shakiness about him right out of the gate, and just like anybody knew, right? And then it's been 7 years, 8 years we've known each other.
Nice.
And so, yeah, like when we first met, it was just this draw to one another. So he's managed to like just sculpt his behaviors, and sculpt his energy so that he can use it for the betterment of others. So it's really phenomenal.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Anything else we need to share to catch up our viewers? We are streaming live right now on my personal YouTube channel. Just go into YouTube and search Laurie Davis Show Host, and it'll be there. And also on my Facebook page, Self-Worth the Missing Link Superstars. And of course, I will be sending this off immediately to the channel, and they will be posting it up, the disability channel. And gosh knows where it goes, because I have lots of people who share.
Wow, yeah, and you can find me. I'm at Doug Smith Performance. I'm not like promoting it anywhere on the screen, but if you go to Doug Smith Performance, there's some really cool videos of me, on the river. And then if you go to YouTube now, I'm starting to load it up with some goals. And YouTube actually banned my fights, so like it's weird. They make a decision that they're gonna ban showing my fights, but you can still fight on national TV on Saturday night.
Yes.
I don't quite get the logic of this.
No, I know. Yeah, and people saw those fights in real life, and that was all. Yeah, like really. Okay. Well, for me, let's see. I don't have anything else other than we've had rave reviews from our recovery summit, Doug, and our speaking docket is just about filled for May 31st, June 1st, and 2nd. We have 9 of our former speakers coming back to share their recovery story, and 9 new speakers coming to share their recovery story. And
everybody's going to get a copy of the trauma code. This is
don't be giving away your secrets. Oh my gosh.
No, digital. You'll get a digital copy of the trauma code. I want to make sure all audience members get the story.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So this is my first edition. It's the only one. Like I have a case of them downstairs. But Doug. Code, anyway, so I just wanted to show you, Laurie. I'm excited about giving it away.
Absolutely. We get that out there. But at our recovery summit, it's a 3-day event, and we do it once a quarter. And I would just like to share that, and that might be something that Stefan wants to. We could be engaging some of our veterans in that speaking arena. And you don't have to be a professional speaker. This is where you come and learn how to speak. Actually, we have a few irons in the fire. I like to have 3 or 4 agendas. So this is where people have come to hone down their presentation skills by telling their recovery story. And very important information. So that's coming up in the next quarter. And we'll see you next week. Let's see, who's our guest next week? I don't have my calendar right in front of me, but I have the next 3 or 4 shows booked with guests. And we're going to bring on Jay Stoyan, who is the owner of the Disability Channel, as a guest, because I want our viewers to meet him. And rather than just, for a minute or 2, I want him to come on and share his role as well. Doug, over to you to close us off here.
Well, it's just I'm just so thrilled to see something that's been worked on so hard by somebody, Stefan Beardwood, and all the minefields that exist politically and in between politics and business, to be able to get something set up that can go across the nation now, and then can go across the world. It's almost like he imagined us having this conversation 3 or 4 years ago, and all we did was put it together that way. So that's Stefan is a perfect example. Even if you're not a veteran, and we've talked about this as a group with Veterans House as well. Is you don't have to be a veteran to come to Veterans House.
No.
Being somebody who survived to this point in your life makes you a veteran. Every one of us is a veteran of life. And so there's nothing that we are building that is going to be proprietary to Veterans House. We want to make sure the whole world gets access to it. So thank you very much, Laurie, for bringing Stefan on and the questions and everything. It was a wonderful time today.
Great. Well, thank you guys. And we're just going to say goodbye until next week and exit the show. And we'll be back next Thursday morning, same time, same station.
Bye now. Have a great week.